The FPL pre-season is all about tinkering with our squads, but as the deadline draws closer, the fear kicks in and all those squads converge ever closer to the template, the safe, boring squad that ensures you don't fall away too much, but which stops you ever having a chance of winning FPL outright and being immortalised forever. I know you are all looking at those highly owned players and you're questioning whether you should be brave and gamble against them. So today I'm taking the top 20 most owned players in FPL and I'm verbalising all the reasons not to own them, because what is pre-season for if not questioning our preconceptions and challenging our ideas of whether these players are worth being in our squads. And yes, as you will see, there are arguments against every single one of those players, even him. Whomever you decide to go with in the end, you will be more confident in your decision for having confronted your doubts by watching this analysis. And before we get into it, yes, all of these players have a lot of positives about them, but that's not what this video is about. This is about challenging those ideas. So let's start with number 20. Number 20 is Ola Aina. Look, he's a good player, but the fact is Forest's defensive numbers dropped off a cliff at the end of last season. Nico Williams got more attacking returns from fewer starts and he ranks higher in the DEFCON points. Also going against Aina is the fact that in the opening 4 weeks they faced Mateta, Bowen and Gyokeres. How likely are clean sheet points against those players? Number 19 is David Raya, and he's one I don't understand at all, because they play Man United, Liverpool and Newcastle away plus Man City at home in their first 6 games. What's more, Raya doesn't make enough saves to get consistent save or bonus points, so his ceiling is lowered. And he only had 13 clean sheets last season, which was matched by Newcastle and Forest and was only one better than Everton. Both Newcastle and Forest have 5 million goalkeepers who get more save and bonus points and who outscored Raya in the goalkeeper position, albeit with Newcastle's being a combination of Pope and Dubravka. What's more, Jordan Pickford is the same price as Raya and he has outscored Raya 2 seasons running. Furthermore, Arsenal have several outfielders at various price points with higher points potential. David Raya is a waste of an Arsenal slot. Number 18 is Jarrod Bowen, and look, he is a great player, but last season he vastly outperformed the underlying data, getting 13 goals and 11 assists from an XGI of 15.07. His first 7 games featured Chelsea, Forest, Tottenham, Palace, Everton and Arsenal, all defences with the potential to be very strong. Yes, Tottenham were crap last season, but their starting centre-back pair missed 46 league games last season, so it won't be so easy against them this time out. West Ham's attacking data under Graham Potter is abysmal, with chances created, goals scored and expected goals among the worst in the league, and now they've lost Kudus, one of their best players. Bowen will undoubtedly be a great player for us at various points this season. I'm just not convinced the opening week is one of them. Now number 17 is Erling Haaland, the man who has been outscored in FPL points by Ollie Watkins 2 seasons running, yet costs £5 million more. What's more, there's been a drastic overhaul at Man City over the last 2 windows, and it will take time for them to operate at optimal levels. Their chief creative player Kevin De Bruyne has left, which will surely impact upon Haaland's chances. Bonus points for penalties have been reduced, which lowers Haaland's points potential even further. You also have to consider he's had no proper pre-season. Despite his traditional early season record, it could take time for him to get going. Factor in the way his 14 million price tag hinders your squad building, and Haaland is easy to avoid. And if you doubt that, remember that last year's winner, Lovro Budasin, only owned him for 1 game week all season. The 16th highest owned player is Marc Cucurella, another who has had a little pre-season and could take time to reach peak fitness, and now this is arguably more important defensively, given how one bad moment can eradicate points potential for the entire game. Also, if Gusto starts, as in the Club World Cup, This limits Cucurella's attacking potential as Gusto bombs on down the other side. What's more, Cucurella's defcon potential is limited, with an average of only 5.75 defensive contributions a game. Now if he's going to be conceding goals, that really does leave his points potential in the mud. Number 15 is Virgil van Dijk, who has Bournemouth, Newcastle and Arsenal in his opening 3 games, all 3 of which are excellent attacking teams, so is he really going to be keeping clean sheets? You've got to remember Liverpool are in a state of flux, with a drastic squad overhaul, especially in defence. They could well have 2 new fullbacks and 1 new goalkeeper playing alongside Virgil van Dijk. Now, they're all good players, but it takes time to build chemistry. And you've got to remember, Van Dijk is 34 years old. It's unrealistic to expect him to maintain the levels of previous years. And to be fair, those levels in FPL terms weren't that high. He only got 143 points last season, 117 the season before last, and only 127 3 seasons ago. It's 3 full seasons since Van Dijk was an elite FPL option. Nottingham Forest defenders are cheaper and better for FPL. Coming in at number 14 is Ezri Konsa. Now he is a player with a very low ceiling. He's only got 4 attacking returns in 3 seasons. He's got an average of 101 points per season over those last 3 years. He only has 1 good defensive game at home in the opening 12 weeks, which is Burnley in game week 7. Now he does have some other decent defensive games, but they're all away from home, which is far from ideal. If you're looking for cheap defenders, there are far better options in that price bracket, both defensively and in attack. You look at Van der Ven, Dorgu, Truffert, Gehi and De Kuyper, to name 5 of them. Ezri Konsa is an uninspired pick, and if you don't go with him, you're not going to miss him at all. There's not a single manager out there who, come the end of the season, will look back and say, oh man, if only I'd got Ezri Konsa in my squad. At number 13 we go from defence to attack with Arsenal's new signing Viktor Gyokeres. Now he has barely had a pre-season due to being on strike, so you have to ask yourself, is the mentality there? What's more, he is completely unproven at the top level. He's got a great record in a secondary league, but so did Afonso Alves, and he absolutely flopped in the Premier League. Gyokeres was 25 when he left Coventry City, with a record of 38 goals in 91 league games in the Championship. It's not even guaranteed he'll start the opening games, especially given how much Arteta loves Kai Havertz. There are far more proven FPL assets for cheaper with far easier games than Man United, Liverpool, Forest, Newcastle and Man City in the opening 6 fixtures. And that ties in with number 12, his defensive teammate Gabriel. Now he has those same opening games, plus he is recovering from surgery and has played limited minutes in pre-season. What's more, there is lots of competition in the Arsenal defence now, with Mosquera, Calafiori, Kiwior, Timber and White all competing with Saliba and Gabriel for starting places, and all very capable centre-backs. When last season's outcomes are adjusted to include DEFCON points, 9 defenders hit 4 or more points in a higher percentage of games than Gabriel, 7 of whom are cheaper in FPL. He might be a good pick at some point, but game week 1 is not it. Number 11 is another defender, and that's Rayan Ait-Nouri, who is owned by a quarter of managers. Now, Pep Guardiola often beds players in slowly over the first season, limiting their minutes until they understand his demands fully, and that could well happen to someone as maverick as Ait-Nouri. And let's remember, he played the full game against Al Hilal and they conceded 3 goals. They have also had a limited pre-season, which could leave Ait-Nouri lacking in fitness, which could then lead to more rotation. Now Ait-Nouri is a very attacking defender. He could could make a mockery of his price if he was nailed, but how often will he play? He's competing with Gvardiol, perhaps the most nailed defender at Man City. Even if Gvardiol is at centre-back, there's still Nico O'Reilly and Nathan Ake to compete with, and if Nunes is playing right-back, there's every chance Pep prefers a more defensive option on the left, such as the tried and trusted Ake or Gvardiol. For me, Ait-Nouri has to be a wait and see. And as we move into the top 10, we start with Morgan Rogers. Now last year he was a phenomenal asset for FPL managers, but last season he outperformed his underlying data to an insane degree. His 8 goals and 11 assists from an XGI of 11.73 is a ridiculous level of overperformance, and it's hard to know just how sustainable that is. It's also worth noting that he played an awful lot of football last season, and with the Europa League he will play an awful lot of football again this season. At some point burnout will occur unless he is rotated, and it is unlikely he will be rotated. Rodgers had an excellent first full season in the Premier League, but how replicable is it? Player development is rarely linear, and there could well be a drop-off now he is a known player. Rodgers brings to mind Anthony Gordon, who was outstanding 2 seasons ago, but very average last season, dropping from 27 returns from an XGI of 15.42 to 12 returns from an XGI of 12.99. A reversion to the mean. The same thing could well, indeed is quite likely to, happen to Rodgers as well. At number 9 we have Mohammed Kudus, and I do not understand the hype around this man at all. In 2 seasons Kudus failed to reach 10 expected goal involvements at West Ham, and was another who suffered a reversion to the mean last season after outperforming his data the season before. He could well find himself on the left wing with Son's departure, a position from which he produced fewer returns for West Ham than in other roles. Spurs were dismal last season, and they have lost their talisman this summer. You'd think Thomas Frank would raise them from that very low level. Indeed, it would be hard not to. But there is always a doubt over managers from protective club systems when they step up to a higher level. For every Eddie Howe, there are multiple Graham Potters, David Moyes, Nuno Santos and Ange Postecoglou's. If Thomas Frank is unsuccessful, Kudus could well be another Spurs big money flop. It's pretty crazy how he's so highly owned given just how many question marks surround him. He never really nailed down a set position at West Ham, and that cycle looks like repeating at Spurs. For the same price you could have the nailed Bruno Guimaraes, Declan Rice or Rodri, all of whom are better assets historically and who will now benefit from the defensive contribution points in a way that Kudus will not. Number 8 is Jeremie Frimpong, who is the second highest owned defender, which is madness when he's £6 million and is not nailed down to start. Even if he does start, he could well be substituted before 60 minutes, and Connor Bradley will take plenty of minutes off him. He's got Bournemouth, Newcastle and Arsenal to start, as well as a Merseyside derby and Chelsea away in the opening 7 games. This is not ideal for a new defender to the league. He is incredibly attacking, but he will leave space behind him that'll make Alexander-Arnold feel like Paolo Maldini. Given Van Dijk is now 34 and Gyokeres is similarly attacking on the opposite flank, it's a recipe for conceding goals, especially given those opening fixtures and the lack of cohesion of an overhauled first team. Furthermore, he has emerged as a top player by playing as a wing-back. Can he adapt to a back four effectively? And how long will it take him to do so? Given those opening fixtures, there's every chance Connor Bradley will start the season at right back and Frimpong will be bedded in. Indeed, Bradley started against Yokohama in what, Alisson aside, could well be Liverpool's first choice team. Now the 7th highest player will absolutely blow your mind, and that's because it's Alexander Isak. But he must only be so highly owned because of people not altering the teams yet, because there is absolutely no reason to have Isak in your squad right now. He's a 10.5 million striker who has not trained properly all pre-season, who is coming back from injury and who has been the subject of intense transfer speculation all summer. There is no chance his head is right immediately, whether he stays at Newcastle or moves to Liverpool. If he does stay at Newcastle, his performances will likely dip, like they did at the start of last season. If he goes to Liverpool, he will still need to get up to speed, and the weight of expectancy will be huge. Isak at Liverpool is a worse FPL asset than he is at Newcastle. Isak will be sharing minutes with Ekitike. He's no longer the main man. He is no longer in a team built around maximising his performance, no longer on penalties, no longer determined to prove he can stay fit all season to secure a move to an elite club. He's playing against low blocks more often, something his Newcastle team struggled to deal with last season. Whatever happens, starting with Alexander Isak is a mistake. Number 6 on the highest owned players is Caoimhin Kelleher, and this is a bit strange to me because Kelleher has conceded more than his expected goals conceded in both his last 2 seasons for Liverpool. When you factor in Brentford conceded 57 goals last season, keeping only 8 clean sheets, and they've since lost Norgard, the captain and best holding midfielder. They've lost their manager, their talisman, and likely their striker too. Their team has suffered a great decline, and the only other new player is a 35-year-old Jordan Henderson who has spent 2 years in weak leagues. Brentford are set for a season of real struggle and could well go down. Nothing in Kelleher's history suggests he is a goalkeeper who will limit the already considerable damage. Expect clean sheets to be a rarity and multiple goals conceded to be common. The highest owned defender in the game comes in at number 5, and that's Wan-Bissaka, and it feels a bit strange saying that when he plays for West Ham, who conceded 62 goals last season and kept only 7 clean sheets. The argument is his attacking returns and DEFCON points will cancel out the lack of clean sheets, but Wan-Bissaka's attacking output last season was very much an outlier, with 0 goals and only 2 assists in his previous 3 seasons. He more than doubled his expected goal involvement, which is very unlikely to be replicated, especially when considering how few chances West Ham create and how they've replaced Kudus and Antonio with a 33-year-old injury-prone Callum Wilson who scored 0 goals last season. What's more, the goalkeepers behind Wan-Bissaka are terrible, whichever one of them starts. When you add to that Chelsea, Forest, Spurs, Palace and Arsenal in the opening 7 fixtures, it hardly screams clean sheets for Wan-Bissaka. 4th on the list is Florian Wirtz with nearly 35% ownership, which is strange for a player new to the league making a difficult step up. Now Wirtz undoubtedly has potential, but what will be his role? Will he be central? Will he be a false 9? Will he be on the left wing? It's hard to know, and he could find himself changing depending upon the opposition. Wirtz signs for Liverpool with a huge price tag, and with that huge expectancy that comes along with it, that can be hard for people to manage, especially in an overhauled and incohesive team which will not be built around him. Wirtz has 22 returns per season for the last 2 seasons in an inferior league, which is good, but it hardly screams game breaker. For comparison, that's only 1 more return than Jacob Murphy managed last season. It's the same as Cunha, and it's fewer than Ollie Watkins, Chris Wood, Brian Mbeumo and Yohan Wissa. There is little doubt Wirtz will be a success in the long term, but there will be a period of adaptation, and there are safer options to start the season with for comparable prices or cheaper. Now we move into the top 3 most template players, and 3rd on the list is Cole Palmer. Over half of managers own Cole Palmer, and when you look at his points totals for the last 2 seasons, it's easy to see why. However, how quickly we forget what an unmitigated disaster his 2025 has been so far. He's been shunted around the pitch to accommodate others. He has only 1 goal and 3 assists in his last 16 Premier League games. Now, some would say he returned to form in the Club World Cup, but that wasn't serious football. It was a glorified friendly cup with teams selected by invite, where mass rotation was the order of the day in vastly different conditions to what the English game is played under. Furthermore, Chelsea have had barely any pre-season. Like Man City, they will not be beginning the season in top condition. Though the opening fixtures are decent, Chelsea and Parma will not be entering them at the peak of their ability. Adding to that, it's been yet another summer of ridiculous transfer turnover at Stamford Bridge, and it's impossible to know how that impacts upon minutes, team balance, style of play or coherence. All we know for sure is that it will have a detrimental effect to begin with, which is not ideal for a 10.5 million FPL asset, especially one who is at his best when playing with Nicholas Jackson, who is now very much out of favour. Mind, at least you could make an argument for Cole Palmer. The name's second on the list, I can't see any argument for owning whatsoever. Like, we're talking about that Chelsea transfer turnover, and the second highest owned player in the game is one Chelsea have just brought in, and that is Joao Pedro. And honest to God, what are we doing here? 54% ownership for a forward who scored 5 non-penalty goals last season. 5. Even with penalties included, he has a career record of 1 goal every 4 games in the Premier League, and only 1 in every 3.5 games in the Championship. Joao Pedro also has a petulant streak, receiving 1 red card last season for lashing out at Nathan Collins and being very lucky to avoid a second for throwing an elbow at Yarmoliuk. Owning a forward with such a poor goals record and such poor temperament is a recipe for disaster in FPL. More to the point, how many minutes will he even play, and where will he play them? Chelsea also have Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson for centre forward, and they have an endless rotation of wingers and attacking midfielders. It's the squad with the most depth in attack, and they are still looking at adding Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho to the mix. Joao Pedro was the 12th highest scoring forward last season when he was the main man in an attacking team and on penalties. 7 of those players who outperformed him by a considerable margin are the same price or cheaper. There is absolutely nothing that justifies having Joao Pedro in our teams at all, let alone making him the 2nd highest owned player in the game. What are you doing? And now we move to the most owned player in our squads, and inevitably the highest owned player in the game is the greatest FPL asset of all time, Mohamed Salah, the man who broke the FPL points record by a huge margin last season. So far ahead was Salah that you could have taken 100 points off his total and he would still have been the highest scoring player. It was an incredible season. But we have to remember that Salah is 33 years old. For all the talk of him being the exception, a player who could go on forever, he is 33 years old in the most physically intense elite league in world football. We thought De Bruyne could go on forever, and look what happened to him last season. And that's pertinent when you consider that in the last 10 games of last season, Salah only got 2 goals and 1 assist, despite playing all but 5 minutes. Added to that, Liverpool have those tough opening fixtures, and they are a team that has been drastically overhauled. It's one thing operating to an elite level in a system fully designed to maximise your impact, with a team of players who know exactly what to do to afford you those opportunities. It's another thing completely to do it in a team with a new striker, a new attacking midfielder, perhaps a new goalkeeper, 2 new fullbacks and potentially another striker on the way. 3 of those players are the 3 players who interact with Salah the most, and it takes time to build up those relationships. Indeed, the loss of Alexander-Arnold behind him could be the most disruptive change to their team Liverpool have faced for years. given Alexander-Arnold's unique talents and influence over their style. Of course, Salah could silence the doubters yet again, and nobody would be surprised. But it's important to remember that before last season, Salah was very much in decline as an FPL asset, dropping from 265 points in 2022 to 239 in 2023 and 211 in 2024, a season when he was outscored by 6 players in FPL, including 4 midfielders. So the question is, which is more likely? That Salah in an overhauled team at 33 years of age puts up another season which justifies that huge 14.5 million price tag, starting with some of the toughest games around, or that he falls away despite still putting up excellent numbers. They fall more in line with some of the other elite midfielders who cost £4 to £5.5 million cheaper. And perhaps the bigger question is it better to have Salah and a 5.5 midfielder alongside Cole Palmer, or, for example, Palmer, Bukayo Saka and Bruno Fernandes? In FPL, it's all about that squad balance. It's all about a points accumulation, and it's up to you to decide whether a 14.5 million player is worth it. 56% of managers believe he is, a number you suspect will rise before the deadline. And in this game of hedging our bets and of minimising our risks, how much do you dare deviate from the template? I know some of you will be having doubts about some of those players in your squad. I've laid a lot of those doubts on the table for you today. Lovro Budison gambled going without Haaland last season, and his name now echoes throughout eternity. The question for all of us is this: how much do you want to risk in chasing the ultimate reward of finishing world number 1?